Hey everyone, so welcome to the second Live Tech Agile session. Today's session will be about adding some tests to legacy code, making it possible to safely refactor it. So the focus is refactoring safely. And we have some goals for today. More specifically, we're going to remove some warnings. So this is in the same vein as last session, which was programming in the small. And we're going to do it in the grid class, by bounded grid. And then we're going to add some more tests to the grid. And finally, we'll do some refactoring of the grid. So this is what we set up, discussed here before we started recording the meeting. We have set up a little ensemble here of 3 people. It's me and my colleague Samuel, who is with us today, and Lars. So perhaps we'll just use the Miro timer for today's session. I think that's good enough. And would 5 minutes be a good time for you? Do you think 5-minute rotations? Yeah. I will start the timer and I will begin as navigator. So Samuel, would you please share your screen with us? And
oh,
thank you.
Sorry, I dropped something here. Give me a second.
Yep.
There. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, it's very clear. So our first goal was to remove some the warnings from the bounded grid. So I think it's on the right side, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So my intention is basically to look for warnings and fix them. So
you want me to hit F2 to go to the next warning?
Sure. What does it say?
It says if statement can be simplified.
Let's do it. And some more.
Simplify if that's okay.
So it basically, can you undo that so we can see the change there?
So what the if statement is doing right now is checking if something's true, and in that case, return true. And if it's false, return false.
Yeah.
So what simplify did was just replace the whole if statement with its test, with its condition. Is it okay if I format it as well?
Yeah, please do that.
So I think this is a little bit hard to read.
Much better. And maybe we could close the grid approval test. I think it just clutters the screen for now.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good question, Eric. So we have a beginning of a test, so we could run the test now. It's not complete. Our second goal is to actually add more tests to make it even better. But the reason I think this is a safe refactoring is because it's like this automatic suggestion doing code analysis in IntelliJ. So I kind of trust that tool to not introduce regressions. That's a very good point, Eric. And we'll come to trickier cases, which won't have those tools. So let's check if there's more. Samuel.
Unchecked cast Java lang object to E.
Ooh. That sounds a bit more. Try that suggestion and let's see what happens.
I've tried this before and it can't not do that. It's not that smart.
But anyway, before we do, maybe we should just commit the previous one, so we have a place to go back to if it goes bad.
What's a good commit message?
Simplify if, maybe. I tagged all these commits which I think are in the vein of P.I.T.S with P.I.T.S colon, like P.I.T.S colon simplify if, but that's.
You want me to amend that?
Yeah, it's just Polish, but
P.I.T.S like that.
Yeah, in the beginning, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Sorry guys, just want you to, you need to do a pull because I did a small change to the README file in order to just verify that I could push.
Cool.
So before you, we had that issue last time. So please do a pull before you start committing it and pushing things.
Thanks for telling us.
I also don't have the changes we fixed. Jonas
fixed, the fix from Jonas.
Yeah, so it's good.
Let's just have a little moment and check that all changes are already there. View the commits and see that we have the latest.
These was the fixes that we imported now.
Cool.
And all the tests passed afterwards, it says.
Yeah, and perhaps we should just run the game once and see that it's...
How do I run the game? What is the command?
It's in the Tetris file. You have the main program. Looks nice.
It works.
Cool. So we had a warning with a bit more complicated suggestion. Oh, and we have a rotation.
Okay, rotation. So I'm the navigator. Okay. And I'm waiting for
typist.
Lars to share his screen.
Yeah.
I will have a hard time reading the chat at the same time. So if someone writes something, please read it out to me. That would be really nice. Okay. So if you hit F2 here.
Which clause were you finishing in the last one? Was it this one?
Yes, this one.
Shall we read out what we were doing?
Recap. Typist recap.
Yeah.
So we were going through all the errors in the file according to IntelliJ and was assessing if we could fix them or if we should skip them for now. And if it was easy to fix, basically if IntelliJ could fix it for us, we fixed it. Otherwise, we moved on.
Awesome, thank you.
So you don't have the newest things. So let's pull those things. Or did I not push? I did not push probably as well. So let me do that first. I'm sorry. Now pull again and see. There.
Here we go.
Okay. So this one I think is too hard. Let's go to the next one. So F2. And this is too hard again. F2. Too hard. This one I think is easy. So replace with yes. So we have removed two things. Let's do F2 again and see if we're in the top of the file. Yeah. So this one could be final. I don't know if we want to do that, but let's do it just to remove the complaint. Okay, commit, add something like
what was it? P.I.T.S.
Yeah, fix trivial warnings or something.
Right.
I like to have commit messages that would fit in this commit will, and then fix trivial warnings. And you need to do commit anyway because of that there are warnings.
Right.
Still left. Okay, awesome.
Oh, sorry.
If you can push from your command line, maybe that's easier.
I had one.
So you don't flash your credentials here.
I'm already logged in. It's just waiting to be.
Oh, okay.
Here I had it.
Awesome. I wonder why it says that there's still changes in this file in the editor. That's really weird. To the left.
My
in the
IntelliJ
tool.
is frozen.
Oh,
There we go.
oh, awesome. So now we're done with fixing the ones we had. So let's use the warnings that we didn't fix to focus on what tests we want to write, I think. So we want
Right.
to fix the get methods. To refactor that one, we need to have test coverage. Could you run the approval tests with test coverage? You can do that by right-clicking the test file. On the left-hand side, you have that one, and do run and more debug, I think. And then with coverage. And we now see this drawer that is very irritating. And is it okay if I guide you to change some settings? And then hopefully you'll
yes.
remember to revert them if you don't like them. But if you open the settings, I think you can find it in file. It's the spanner, that one. And you search for coverage. There's always two things I change. You have the checkbox that says activate coverage view, which is the one on the right. And then replace active suit with new one is the radio button that I like most of the time. This setting in other settings is only really useful if you kind of don't run all your tests at the same time. And you run some part of the tests, and then you run some more part of the tests, and you want to merge that coverage. But whenever you always run all your tests at the same time, this is the most useful one. It says don't save any information from last runs, only replace it with the old one. So you can hit OK if this is fine with you as well.
Totally.
So now if we close the tab on the right-hand side box, and then you rerun the test, it should not pop up. Awesome. And I think it's quite hard to see the color of the coverage. It's quite pale green and pale red. So if you click that one, you also have a spanner. No, you were right. So if you, there you have a spanner next to hide coverage. And there you can click the color on the top right, 4, 8, 5, and then just drag it to something that is a little bit more visible. Yeah, something like that, I think is okay. And then if you hit OK, it will improve that one.
Change the red too?
Yes, that would be lovely. That's something that pops a little bit more. Thank you. So it says here that we have some coverage here for the get. I don't know how good this coverage is. So I'm thinking we should do some mutation testing. That means that we inject the bug and see if this green coverage actually tests something. So how I would do this in this case is let's take out something that is wrong. Is it okay if I just finish this before we move on?
Sure.
So if you on row, just add +1. So sorry, on line 30, it says occupant array and then row. Just add +1, run the test and see if it fails. And then I'm done.
Cool.
Yeah.
So as Samuel said, this is called mutation testing, and it's really valuable to test the quality of your tests. So by changing, what you really are looking for when you write automatic tests to do this kind of refactoring in legacy systems is a shield to protect you from making mistakes. So if we made a mistake here now, we added a +1. So if the tests fail, then we know that our tests are good in this particular part of the code. So it's more valuable than code coverage. Code coverage can guide you to where you are not still doing tests, but the mutation testing is really the valuable test to see how good quality your tests are. So thank you, Samuel, for bringing that up.
Should I ship the failing test before leaving?
So you should undo the change we did here. So the only reason why you did this change is to check if we had a failing test. And when we did that, that means that we have a test that checks that if we miscount row by 1, we have that kind of security.
And then we have Lars navigating me for next round. Should we have a type history recap? Don't forget to push.
I did push. We were going through the warnings that IntelliJ found in the code, and we're fixing the easy ones. We ended up with the ones we didn't want, the ones that we didn't fix so easily. So we're checking the tests, and we think we have good coverage. So we're about to fix some more warnings. By the way, who's responsible for starting the timer?
I've done it so far. I don't know. Maybe.
It can be the one who's not doing anything.
I can do that.
Yeah.
That could be my
volunteers.
contribution
Cool.
for now.
Thank you.
Just hold on. I'm not quite sure where to do that though.
On the mirror. On the mirror.
Yeah.
you see it? Oh, maybe you don't have that tool. Maybe
I
because
have,
it's-
right,
Oh,
so I
okay,
can do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I see that you don't have pulled Olaf. Or you're in the wrong branch. You're in the wrong branch.
Oh, I am. Thanks.
And you maybe haven't pulled this branch. So I'll start the timer.
Yeah, go. So let's go to that warning on line 30 in the my bounded grid, and excuse my Java skills. Do some checking of the type before casting.
Sorry, what did you want me to do?
I want to make sure that the type is E before casting it to E. And if it's not E, let's throw some exception. Some control exception.
It should be a big O. Instance of, I think it's. I think it's a
Element.
operator. So element instance of object, E.
To me, this makes little sense though, because we're not really adding any value to the code. We're just trying to please the warnings generator. So maybe we should just undo this and suppress the warning because we know what we're doing.
So I'm going to lift something that's in the chat if that's okay.
Sure.
So there's a suggestion to, instead of change here when we take the thing out, to change the declaration of the occupied array to actually say that it's full of E's instead of objects.
Sure, good idea. And let's fix the compilation problems up there when we are instantiating the occupant array. What is E? Can we go and look at what E is? It's a type, but what is it concretely when we are creating this? Going into learning what the code is doing mode. It's a block. What's a block?
Oops.
Chat says it can also be a string.
What can also be a string?
E.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's because of the tests, not of the production code, though.
So maybe we should remove the generic part of this code if it doesn't help us. And if we need it, we could add it back later. But then we need to refactor the tests first to use E everywhere. But then let's undo what we did and start working on the tests.
So the timer. So typist recap. We tried fixing the warning with the typecasting, and we found out that maybe there's a simpler fix to change the type of the occupant array to E instead. And then when we tried to instantiate that, we got into trouble, and we ended up discussing if we should maybe refactor the code so it's not a generic class anymore. And in order to do that, we want to change the tests. If we want to do that, maybe we should have a little discussion. I'm thinking on the direction we're going. Just a brief discussion.
So I find that we're now tumbling down a rabbit hole, which I
Indeed.
would rather not tumbling down. And for example, the method that we had the error in, or the warning that we want to fix, don't have full test coverage. So before we do anything more complicated than changing a type, I think I at least would like to have more test coverage and check, if needed, check that the coverage also counts for something with mutations.
So getting back to working tests for the code rather than starting to make more invasive changes. Is that others? What do you think, team?
Maybe we could recap the session goals. Just to see where we are.
Cool. I'll share my screen. So we started out with removing warnings in malbounded grid. And that's basically where we're still at. We're working on one of the trickier ones. We kind of had the idea that when the warnings are all out, we can go to the next goal. But right now we're at a goal, at a warning which wasn't so trivial. So maybe we could just move on to this without completely finishing this one. That's one suggestion then.
Yeah, since we have warnings that we can't fix without more tests, we should do the test.
Let's. Shall I go for that?
We could also look at the third goal there, refactoring abandoned grid. Maybe there are aspects of that method that we can refactor that doesn't have any warnings.
Mm.
That would still make it easier to reason about the code.
Yes. Do you mean I'm running the coverage, and we were looking at this one, right?
Yes. But I'm the one who's going to be the typist, right? And you're the navigator.
Maybe I'm. Yes. Yes. So
Just checking.
Yep. Yeah, I think we have updated our goals a bit, so we are not squashing all warnings. We're kind of moving to the next goal without squashing all warnings. Cool. And I'll start. Where's the timer? So. So if we get the, can we see the coverage again?
Yes.
So
And
in the
this
get
was the
method, yes. So we did try one. We did try one mutation with changing the row +1. But we can see that there is a lack of test for the null case, return null. So I would like us to add a test for that, so we can cover that part before we start refactoring it a bit.
Do you want it to be in grid approval test?
Yeah, that's fine. So this one, I think it suffices that it's just an ordinary unit test, and my gut feeling is that null is when you're out of the grid, out of bounds. So let's just write a test where you get the get the cell which is on location -1 or something like that. Nice test name.
And then let's copy some code here. Remove this one. What values do you want to have here?
-1, -1. And maybe we could add a assert on null there on the get.
All right.
It's called asserts. Okay, yep. Or assertions, maybe, if I remember correctly. It's assertions with a capital A.
Yes, I'm having issues for some reason here.
I think yes, assertions, yes. Cool.
There. I'm gonna turn off auto tests here. I think that's what's screwing with me. There.
And can we check the coverage again?
I'm gonna run it from the beginning. There.
So we got that coverage too. So once we've stared at this code for a while, I think we were safe to just remove. I mean, the for loops. I don't know what they're doing. It's just seems completely superfluous. So I suggest that we just in the start of the let's start with just doing the naive thing here and just returning the expression, return and E, the expression from row 31. Maybe we'll get a crash then, but we can fix that. Let's start with that. Let's try that.
So row and column is not defined.
It's the from location.
Okay.
Location dot, yeah. Let's run the test and see.
So now it says that the variable is overwritten here. So I'm just gonna
comment that
comment it out.
Yeah. And we got the rotation. And we have a we got a failing test. That's fine. Let's commit and push, and we'll continue. Can we have a typist recap?
Yes. After I have written a commit message, we start. That good?
Yeah.
So what we did was we found a line that didn't have any coverage, and we started to just add coverage for that line. And after that, after looking at the code, we just figure out, okay, what happens if we just try to rewrite the method as we think it would be rewritten and see if that fails any tests.
Yeah, and so we have Samuel navigating.
Me?
Large typist, and I'll start the timer then.
Okay, so somehow this was not good enough. And I'm trying to figure out what the changes that was lost here were. And it seems like we're checking that the number is in between 0 and the number of columns, number of rows. So let's, before we do the return, add an if statement that check that row is in between 0 and get number of rows.
Is it possible to do syntax like that? Or do you have to make it into?
You need to do and. But I think it's good to put it in that place so that we have
0 first.
Yes, lower numbers before bigger numbers. And then so we want to negate that. That's
So I'm sorry to interrupt the airflow, but we're several that are raising our fingers.
Sorry.
Jonas?
Yeah, we already have a method to validate the location is actually valid. You have the is valid function, right? Right above this method.
Awesome.
On line 19, you can see it there.
Awesome.
So let's do if valid, then return what we have there. Not capital L. and then else turn no. I really like to have my squigglies. Could you do autofix to add brackets? You don't need to do it by hand. You can do the auto, but okay. And I want to have an else.
You want to have an else.
You can format the file, I think. It's in code format.
Shortcut for that?
It's Control-Alt-L, I think. There.
Nice.
Okay, let's run the test and see if this fixed it.
Hooray.
Awesome. Can we remove also
Hooray.
the uncommented code? I think what you were doing before with moving the creation of the variables into the if, I think is a good thing. So could you move line 27 and 28 into the if?
I'd like to inline them.
Okay, inline them. Yeah. It's Control-Alt-N. Sure. Okay, let's commit that.
See if I got this doing.
So finish
Factor.
refactor of.
Factor get.
Yeah, I think it's good enough. And we need to push. So don't know what to do next here really, but I'll use the time to kind of talk over why I at least think we can't really cost check that something is E or something like that. And that's because of type eraser. All types that are generics in Java doesn't exist after the compilation. So you can't use them in anything that is a runtime check. And that is why we can't create an array of E's, or we can check if an instance of something is E. So I have no good, like, without changing, so we don't use an array of arrays, I don't know a good way to remove this warning. We could silence it, maybe,
Yeah.
if people want that.
Yeah. So we got a rotation again.
So we refactored the get method to look nice using some helper methods, but we still have the warnings. And I think we should address the warnings coming up.
We also have a suggestion from the chat to also suppress the warning.
Yeah.
Or a question about suppressing warnings, maybe I should say.
So I will be typist and Lars is navigating.
Yes, I think we should just silence this warning.
So you do that in the menu that you have there. So if you do the Alt Enter and then go to the right. So Alt Enter. No, Alt Enter. And then arrow key right when you're on the first one. Then you have suppress for statement, probably is good. There.
Nice. So let's go to the next warning and see where that was. Same thing. Shall we refactor later? Let's silence the warnings first. Yeah.
There's one more warning in the file.
I'm pressing F2 and this is the only one.
Oh, interesting.
Caspi. So can you scroll up a bit to see what the former is? So the type on line 36 can be just E.
Then this one is not needed.
Mhm.
It says it's redundant.
Then we don't need this one.
So
No errors found in file.
So was the goal to remove all warnings or just warnings from this clause?
We said start here because we wanted some time for writing tests too, not only checking warnings. Yeah.
So run the tests. And then we commit. So I'd like to do the same kind of refactoring again, but let's look at the tests. Can we see what tests we have written or have?
So I just like to show you a little bit. We didn't really discuss approval tests. So with approval tests, we exchange the assert with a verify call. And that means that we have a textual representation of expected output. So for example, an empty grid looks like this. So this is the tests we have, which uses this technique. A grid of 2 rows, 3 columns, content with an A. So that's, for example, the test. A grid with top left cells set to A. This one. So we got the tests for put, that's put, and we can see this is in test coverage too, put. So we are testing the put method basically.
Has anyone spotted something that we have not covered so good with the tests? Like remove? So unless you disagree, shall we start by writing some removal tests?
You do that. What kind of test do you want me to add for remove?
Let's start by removing from an empty one and see that that doesn't, or that returns null apparently. Nice. And then let's add a test where we test that remove returns the thing that was removed. So create a small grid and remove something from it. See that we get what we ask for.
I think I know what's wrong.
What's wrong?
It failed because there were nothing in the grid when you did the put. It returns what was in the place before you did the put.
Put, we should test remove, so we need to put something and then remove as well. Right. And then let's add one where we ask completely out of bounds as well, -1, -1. Where we have something on the grid, like in this case. Perfect. And then we commit them if they would have passed. Yeah, that is null.
I want to see the coverage.
Hmm?
Nice.
Commit.
And I think that's time for the rotation. So quick typist recap. We added tests for the remove method. And I think that's about it. We didn't do any refactoring for it. Yes, and it's actually time for a retro now too. So I'll push these changes. Oh, I had already done that. Let me stop sharing. So let's have a little frame for retro. Samuel, do you have a suggestion for retro prompts?
I just like the plus delta, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a simple person.
Plus,
good and improvements, basically.
yeah, what was good? And delta, I'll type that. I don't know a symbol for that, delta. So what could be changed? So that's a very simple, neat format. And put some notes down here. Cool, someone found it, thanks.
Mhm.
Hmm. So I think I see a lot of things that were liked. I added a note about the Git bisect, which we did before the recording started. That was lovely. I'd like to we could spend a couple of minutes discussing this one. I think this is a really relevant question. Some things take more than 5 minutes. For example, doing this generic type refactoring. How should one deal with those? I think that's a very interesting discussion. Should we spend some minutes with that?
Yeah, I wrote to post it, but I don't know. I mean, the question is as stated. I mean, these sessions work for a particular set of tasks where you can be fast and productive and do very small changes, but not all changes are possible to break down into small enough things, I think. And this particular problem, I think it's even if you do it in 10 minutes, it's quick, but within 5 minutes is probably problematic. If you have a larger code base where you do these kinds of changes, it might take more time, right? Even for atomic small changes.
I agree with you that I think that some things are too big to do in 5 minutes, but I don't think there are many. And that when you start working in this way, one of the things that you exercise in your brain is to figure out how to break up things into small things. And like not only breaking them up, but how to create checkpoints. Like how can we do half of it and then leave the rest to the next person without feeling that they lose track. So, I mean, you don't need to have something finished afterwards, but you need to have something that is committable, and you need to focus on increasing the learning. Like I find that we actually fixed the object thing now, and we have some more places where we can fix it, because basically what we did was saying that in get, it's okay to have this error. Everywhere else, we should be able to remove it. And we have one place that we didn't, that we silenced it. And we had one place that we silenced it and then realized that we didn't need it anymore. So by doing these small things, we make all the changes easier and easier and easier. But that's my view.
You kind of gotta lift it to a session goal rather than like everybody got to be aligned towards that target. And if you actually you need to do refactorings and prepare everybody for that change to eventually occur, but you need to be aligned on it, right?
Yeah. So I mean that would be one of the if it is a tricky thing which seems we may need to read up on some technique or something, let's pause this one and revisit it for a whole session. This is a session topic, kind of, if we had some other goal. I also want to give you my kind of go-to answer when it comes to big refactorings, and someone smiles because he knows what I'm going to say. So Mikado method is a really good way to do these systematic bigger changes in a trunk-based way, small steps. So it's something it's a method both of us really like. So Google it, Mikado method, the book.
Could you give just a small description what it's about?
Okay, like a minute description is that it's based on the idea that you do small experiments. You make a change in the code base, and you look at the code base like a system, kind of like a something you can get response from. So you want to change this parenthesis e thing. So you just do it, and you see how does the system react. You see some errors, you see some build errors, and you look at the errors and you understand what do I need to do to fix this error, and then you document this in a tree, like a graph. So you get a change tree. You investigate each leaf until you find a leaf that is just doable. You won't break anything, and then you can start unwinding changes towards the goal. And this can be done over weeks. And you keep staying at close to the main branch all the time. So you don't have a branch, you just make small changes. So it's based on experiments and documenting what you need to do. So it's very similar to the idea that can make the change easy than make the easy change. It's close to that idea, but even bigger scale, kind of.
And what was the name again?
Mikado method.
Mikado.
So you basically move adding value to the code base and instead add value to this tree. So you say, what we're going to do now is not fix the problem in the code base. What we're going to do is create this instruction set for us of how to fix the code in the code base. And that is what we build first by exploring the code base.
Yeah, it's exploratory technique, and it's I just want to nuance. It's not build first, but you kind of keep updating this tree. So you don't make the full analysis. It's a living document. So it keeps living with your changes, and you don't have any branches. You just do it on the main. So it interleaves very well. It merges quickly, so you get value quickly from the technique. So it's a favorite technique that I coach teams in. Okay, thank you very much for joining the second session of live tech coaching, and hope you will join more sessions. And perhaps we can tweak it. I saw some retro points that are more participatory from these observers, so perhaps we can tweak it even more. So the chat is there for that purpose, but maybe we weren't attentive enough in the ensemble for that feedback. So have a great weekend. See you.
You too.